To counter Vanquish Soul K9, I don't really recommend monster hand traps, but if you had to, use Ash Blossom on Holly Sue summoning from deck, use Imperm on Raisin, use Impulse on Holly Sue summoning from hand, but the real counters are board breakers like Evenly Matched, and one of the best counters against the deck is Droll and Locked Bird. The deck doesn't really lose to Nibiru since an early Ripper can negate it, but board breakers in general are very good against this deck. Against Yummy, use Ash Blossom on Cupsy to prevent Searching Surprise, or if they didn't start with Yummy but are bridging into it, use Ash Blossom on the Synchro Cupsy instead. Saji also isn't a bad Ash target in Mitsu version, use Imperm on the Synchro Cupsy if they can't tag out, or use it on Cupsy. Use Ghost Spell on any Synchro trying to summon 2 from grave, use Impulse on Mitsu Engine. Ideally on Mitsu Ritual, Dark Ruler No More is one of the best cards against Yummy. The most popular variant is with Mitsurugi, so Droll is good against this combination. Yummy can easily push after being Nibiru thanks to cards like Link Spider, which is a tuner for them, and Herald can generally negate your board breakers. But if you open 2 board breakers or just Dark Ruler No More, then they're great against this deck. Against Crystron K9, use Ash Blossom on Noro if they start with it, or on Sulfador sending 2, use Imperm on Sulfador, use Ghost Bell on Sulfador or Sulfafnir if they're trying to summon it from grave, use Impulse on Sulfador trying to summon itself or Sulfafnir trying to summon from deck. Droll and Locked Bird is generally good against this deck since they do have to search to bridge. Nibiru isn't good against any deck with K9 since they can negate it. Board breakers generally can be negated with Dragster, but cards like Droplet generally do well against Crystron. Against Dracotail, use Ash Blossom on Rahu. Imperm and Vela should ideally be used Arthalion when it's trying to add multiple cards from grave to hand. Use Impulse on Rahu or on Phimina. Ghost Spells should also ideally be used on Arthalion. But if they do chain block it, just save it for one of the traps since it can negate all of them. You can also use cards that banish everything from grave like Shifter or Retaliating Seed to counter the deck. Dracotail does not lose to Droll, does not lose to Nibiru, and doesn't lose to board breakers that you can't respond to. To counter Maliss, all of Allure of Darkness, TB11, or White Binder when it's summoning from the banished zone, are all good targets for Ash Blossom. Use Imperm and Veiler on Splash Mage if used early, or on White Binder if they can't dodge it. Use Ghost Spell on GWC during your own turn. Use Impulse to prevent something like a Dormouse summoning from the banished zone, or on White Binder trying to summon from the banished zone. For specific counters, use something like Lancea or Chaos Hunter to prevent all kinds of banishing. Maliss is more affected by Droll now after the Red Ransom ban, so there's a chance Droll can affect them. However, they'll also have hands where they can Droll themselves to play through Max C. The deck also can lose to a well-timer Nibiru, and a board breaker like Super Poly will heavily limit their disruptions. For Orcust Fiendsmith, you'll want to use Ash Blossom on either Harp Horror in grave or on Nightmare Mermaid. Use Imperm and Vela on Gursu if they start with it, or on Nightmare Mermaid. Impulse can also be used on Harp Horror or on Mermaid. Ghost Spell can be used on Galatea the Link one, since it technically can add from grave even if it wasn't trying to. You can also use Bestials to banish Harp Horror before it activates, or use cards like Lancea to prevent Orcust cards banishing from grave. This deck isn't affected by Droll at all. It can actually Droll itself to play through Max C. Orcust doesn't lose to Nibiru since it can force it out early by threatening Caesar by having 2 level 6 monsters on the field, and the deck doesn't immediately lose to board breakers, since it has an Omni-Negate counter trap to negate them. To counter Ryzeal, use Ash Blossom on Saji if it's the Mitsu version, or Onomatopoeia if it's the Onomat version, or just on Duo Drive since Cross got banned. Use Imperm and also Veiler on Duo Drive. Use Impulse on Mitsu Ritual, or on Ice. Ghost Spell can be used on Prayers, for specific counters. Cards like Ultimate Slayer that deal with Detonator can be useful. Droll and Locked Bird is great against Ryzeal. Nibiru is now very good against Ryzeal after cross ban, and generally it doesn't have Omni Negates so it can be affected by certain board breakers. To counter Lunalight, use Ash Blossom and Impulse on Silverhound trying to summon from deck. Use Imperm and Veiler on Gold Leo to prevent both its effects. Use Ghost Spell on Lunalight Wolf's fusion effect. For specific counters, cards that mass banish from grave do counter this deck, or if you play Fiendsmith, You can add a copy of Santa Claus to deal with Liger Dancer, or use Underworld Goddess. This deck does get affected by Droll depending on the hand, but usually they can still summon a Liger through Droll. How effective Nibiru is also depends on the hand. And of course the deck doesn't lose to board breakers because its boss monster is unaffected. To counter White Forest Azamina, use Ash Blossom on Esteller, or on Elzet, or on Deception, whatever they use first. Use Imperm and Veiler on Esteller or on Sylvie, use Impulse on Esteller or on Elzet. White Forest, it's all about stopping them early because they do summon an Omni Negate later on. A card like Retaliating Sea does alright against White Forest if you're main decking it for Dracotail. Droll is extremely good against this deck. Nibiru isn't very good White Forest because there are many combos to summon an early negate or push through it. The deck does have Omni Negates, but it may struggle against board breakers that you can't respond to. Against Blue Eyes, use Ash Blossom on Wishes. Imperm and Veiler should be used on Spirit the Link 1 to negate both effects. Use Impulse on Spirit to prevent them summoning from the extra deck. Ghost Bell can be used on Roar or on Spirit to prevent summoning a Blue Eyes. Ideally, if you play Ghost Ogre, definitely use it on True Light to not only destroy it, but to also wipe their field. Droll can be good against this deck depending on their hand. Nibiru is good after they summon multiple Spirit, and board breakers like Super Poly do limit their end board. Against Gem Knights, use Ash Blossom on Brilliant Fusion, use Imperm and Veiler on Quartz to negate both effects, use Ghost Bell and Impulse on Dispersion to prevent summoning 3. However, you have to bait their Omni Negate Hollow Core first before that, or banish it from grave using Bestials. Cards like Retaliating Sea are great against this deck. Droll does limit this deck's ability if they don't already have everything in hand. Nibiru isn't always very good since they can negate it with Hollow, and if they are going first, then board breakers can limit this deck's end board. Against Sky Striker, use Ash Blossom on Engage when they have 3 spells in grave. If they are going first, use Imperm and Veiler on Sky Striker Ace 0, or on Kagari trying Yo Recycle Engage. Impulse can be used on Ray if possible. If not, use it on 0 trying to destroy your cards during your turn. But a great counter to this deck is Droll and Lock Bird, which prevents all those searches. Nibiru isn't very good, but board breakers like Lightning Storm can completely undo their turn 1. Against Pure Mitsu, use Ash Blossom on Saji to prevent the search of Mitsu Ritual. Use Veiler on whatever they summon from the extra deck like Granite. Use Imperm during your own turn to negate their end board piece like Masquerina. Use Impulse on Mitsu Ritual. You can use Ghost Bell to prevent one of the rituals in grave from searching and summoning. Droll is extremely good against this deck. As for Nibiru, it does trigger the Mitsu Ritual monsters in grave, but not if you do it after they've already triggered all of them, and board breakers generally can be negated with Purification. Against Branded, always use Ash Blossom on Branded Fusion. Use Imperm and Veiler on Aluber. Use Impulse on Branded Fusion as well. Use Ghost Bell on Branded Retribution to prevent adding Branded Fusion to hand, or so Albion trying to fuse. Droll doesn't hurt Branded too much since Branded Fusion can be added from grave. Nibiru doesn't do much against Branded even when used, thanks to all the grave effects. And board breakers can definitely hurt Branded. Artmage isn't really meta now, but it's being played quite a bit. Use Ash, Imperm, Veiler, and Impulse, all on Maliss the Pure. This prevents a summon from the deck, a fusion summon, and a search, all with just one hand trap. Use Ghost Bell either on Maliss trying to summon from grave if it hasn't already, or on Litera trying to summon and add a card. Use Droll and Locked Bird since this deck does search 3 times with the field spell alone. Nibiru is usually good against Artmage except for the K9 version, and board breakers can generally be negated with the fusion. Against Odion deck, use Ash Blossom on the man, use Imperm on their fusion if you see they're setting it up, or use it on Rabbit. Use board breakers to clear back row. You can use Impulse on their trap monsters if you don't want your own cards to get negated. Droll and Nibiru don't do much against this deck, but board breakers like Feather Duster or Red Reboot completely stop the deck.